Hey everybody, my name is Rutre and today I will be talking with you about my internship experience at FullStack Academy. It was a full stack web developer internship that focused primarily on one stack development. Moving forward to the overview, so what are the key points of this particular internship? What we actually did was we built an online food ordering platform powered by AI, like it had AI features. We used MERN stack, okay, the major technologies, but as mentioned of the MERN. Then we had other third-party technologies, which included Cloudinary, Stripe, and Postman. All of these. Cloudinary is basically this cloud thing, okay. Then we have Stripe, which is for payments, and then we have Postman to check our APIs, to check our backend is working or not. Then we used Grok API for the AI features. What was the goal of internship? Goals of internship, plural. It was to fully engage us with the entirety of MERN stack development. How is MERN stack development actually, happening under the hood? Backend way we had Node and we had Express. We had the APIs working. How MongoDB is all connected with each other and how it is connected, you know, as a one unit. Okay. Then we had front end. We had React, which had its components. We had states, its dynamic interactive interfaces and all. So other goal was to familiarize ourselves with Postman as well. As before this, I had no idea like how is it that APIs are functioning or how is it we are checking and all. So all of that also was the goal of internship. We had learned to deploy the project in GitHub as well. It helped me gain hands-on experience to orchestrating a full stack web dev environment. Okay, so how is it that the entirety of full stack web development actually is, and how is it actually happening behind the scenes? So that was also one of the goals of the internship. It polished my personal coding abilities and also my problem solving skills. Moving forward to the project requirements. Uh, First of all, we have the installation of VS Code. Universally, the first step in every single project. We have the installation of Node.js, the entire running environment for my front end, back end, the entire stuff. So then we have MongoDB at last setup, which functions as our database. Installation of Git and GitHub, basics of HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all of that, which is quite very basic, which is a preliminary requisite. Okay, so JavaScript is the main language which is involved both in my front end as well as the back end. Okay, so JavaScript is really really important. Architecture and design. First, we had the concept lead. So what is it that I want my website to look like? What is it that we want the website to be like? So that was where we built our concept. First look, it will be a wide range of restaurants. Okay, we'll have this template where all of these restaurants are listed down. Okay, and then the user will have the ability to click into any one of them, and that will be a request. Okay, the menu will be displayed with various categories. There will be starters, lunch, etc. And then the user selects the food items, the cart is updated, and then the checkout of the order, and then finally the delivery. So that was our main concept. The same concept that that is applied everywhere in Swiggy, Zomato, all of these Blinkit, all of these online food ordering platforms. So this it was the same concept. Okay. Then moving forward with the structure. So how is it structurally going to be built? User will put forward any request. The React sends that HTTP request to the server, and before the server, moves forward with any logic, moves forward with dealing with data, with giving back any sort of response. First of all, it verifies the user token. So that is where the JSON web token, topic comes in. Before moving forward with any of the logic, the backend server verifies it with the JSON web token, which is a unique token that is given to each and every single user. Okay, it helps us with authentication and authorization, whether or not this particular user which is trying to log in is a validated person, is a validated user or not. Okay, so that is where the JWT comes in handy. It helps us with giving much more security to our users. So the backend saves the card to the database, the MongoDB stores data, and the response is returned back to the React, and the card count is updated, and all of that. Okay, so that is what is also being depicted in this particular flowchart thing. React, my front end, is communicating with the backend, the Express and Node.js, and this backend server is communicating with the MongoDB, which is our database. So that is the entire structure of the that we discussed about was full stack development, right? Which comprises both of the front end as well as the back end. Front end is the client side, whatever requests that are coming of the users, of the customers. So that is what front end is dealing with. And the back end, the server side portion of the web application. So it handles complete development process. It's not just particular the front end, or it's not just back end. It's both of them. Okay, so it's like encompassing both of them. So then we have the designing user interfaces. It manages databases and also the server side function. That is the entirety of full stack development. And in our particular project, we are using the MERN stack. As previously mentioned, it is a popular full stack JavaScript framework. It builds modern and scalable web applications using a single programming language in both front-end and back-end, which is JavaScript. MongoDB, which is a non-relational database, stands for the M of the MERN. E, which is the Express Node.js web server. Then React, the R, JavaScript front-end library, and Node, which is the JavaScript web server. So that is the entirety of MERN stack. That is what we use throughout the entire project. Now that is all of full stack development, or MERN stack, or how will our website look like, what is the concept of it, what is the structure, but how are we going to implement that, actually implement it into paper, actually perform the logic. So where do we start? As taught to us by, or is guided to us by Richa ma'am of WSA, we first started with building the backend. Three main components that are recurrent in every single position, in every single pattern. Okay, model, the controller, and route. And then we have the main engines, the app.js and server.js. So what model has is it contains the information about any entity, the user, restaurant, menus, anything. So that contains information like a schema, right? Moving forward to the controller. Now what controller is? It contains the logic. What can we do with the model information? Any sort of updates, removal, resets, or for example, I forgot my password. Okay, I need to reset it back. So whatever that thing is being allowed for me to do as a user, so that is what is included in the controller part. Then we have the route, which provides the path or location to the server to access the logic of any feature. It's like, okay, I made a particular feature, I made it possible to happen, but how will my server know that I have this feature? How will my server locate that particular feature? So that is what the route is basically doing, or performing for us. As you can see in this picture, it's quite clear. First we have the schema, user model.js, which is the JavaScript file. Then it moves along with auth controller.js, which is a controller file. Then it moves to the route file, and then to the app.js, and finally to the postman testing, where we're actually putting it into test, like whether is it working or not. So app.js is the main entry point. It will build the engine. It will have every single thing that is required for the engine to be there, okay, to be functioning, to be working. It configures the JS and the middleware. And then you have the server.js, which behaves as to start the engine, okay, because in any particular time you cannot just be like, okay, now I want the server to be there. No. So what server.js, it starts the engine then and there. It initializes it, configures, and starts the web server. Other key features include the JSON web token, as previously mentioned, the Grok API features, and middlewares. So that is the entire story of backend. So that is what we're actually doing in the backend, and we are making this logic not only just user part. It is recurrent in restaurants, in menus, food coupons, in food items. So all of that, the same story is happening: model, controller, and route. And then we are all importing into the app.js, and then the server.js is there to start the engine and the server. So that is how the backend is completed. Then moving forward to the front end, which uses React. More specifically, we are using the React Redux toolkit. And this toolkit mainly comprises of 3 to 4 characters, like similar to that of backend. But here we have these new, key elements: slice, actions, reducer, and stores. What is slice? It creates the initial state, the default values. It manages one specific part of data. Actions, it is the customer request. Okay, so it's like, I only want pure veg restaurants. So that is the customer request that is coming in the front end, okay, in the particular time. So it describes what the user wants to do. It has a label and a data. Now what the reducer is it consolidates all state update logic in one centralized place. So it's like it is holding all the update logic within itself. So the reducer, it's controlling both slice and the action. So it has both of it. Okay. So the store, now the store is the most important element, I guess, in the entire Redux toolkit. It has everything. It will have control over each and every single data. Actually, what store has, it's just all of the reducers that is um, binding with slices and actions. So what store has, it has all of the reducer that it makes it possible for it to have all the application data and can be accessed globally. So then we have Axios, which is used to conduct the API routes within the front end. It fetches the data and everything. So these four main key things that exist within the React Redux toolkit makes us possible in the front end to to interact with data in a much more faster way, in a much more efficient way, and is much more reliable, as in terms of security, as in terms of efficiency. So React allows us to do wonders. It makes our lives easy. Okay, so that is what the React Redux toolkit is. To understand this more, we also have this another picture, a total representation that was also provided to us by the Webstack Academy LMS. Now, as it is a simple, feature, like I want to get all the restaurants. Okay, so how will that look like? How will that look like in case of the front end, right? So first we'll have a component, the UI. Then it will have this call as a dispatch. Now what dispatch does is dispatch is just notifying the front end key. Okay, here I need to do something. I want to do something. You get me something. So that is what dispatch is doing. It has an action inside of it. It is wanting all of the restaurants, which is a function that gets restaurants. It is calling to that function, and that function, that dispatch is then forward to the slice of the action. That is the restaurant slice. So the action is then handled by the restaurant slice. And the API call is made, as you can see over here, the API call. So this API call is made to fetch the restaurants. Then it moves forward to the store, that is the Redux store. As previously mentioned, the store is updated with the fetched restaurants data. Finally, that same store will provide with all of the data, and then that is navigated to restaurants. So based on the state of response, it navigates to the restaurants page. So that is, so this is just one particular feature to getting all the restaurants. So there are, like numerous more features, and all of them have this same pattern. It has a dispatch call. It goes to the slice. The slice is then, calling to the store, hey, I need this, this, this. And the store provides it that, and then it's navigated back to the router. So that is all that is happening inside the front end. So this ability for us to, just be there in the front end and not really knock to the back end every time we need some data. So that ability, that flexibility is what React provides us. Okay. Had this been a front end used entirely by HTML or CSS or JavaScript, we would have had to call to the server every time we need something, and we would have had to require to reload the page every time any little small update is done. And that cumbersome task is what handled, or is it what's simply replaced by the React Redux toolkit. So that is why I would like to mention the power of React. So React lets us build the user interface as a function of data. Okay, when Redux state changes, any state, okay, restaurants load, menus load, or user toggles any wedge filter or any sort by reviews filter, so that update is automatically performed in React in the front end, but by only replacing the parts of the page that need to change without ever reloading the page. So without ever reloading the entire page, going back to zero level or something like that, we just need to update certain parts, and that is what makes React so powerful. It is efficient, it is beautiful, and it performs in a well structured way, by giving us the flexibility and freedom to perform, to do things in a more easier way, okay, which is less cumbersome. So that is all that was about the front end, the back end, and how the things are actually happening behind the hood, right? So I would like to forward with a project demo, show the entire file structure. We have backend, and then we have controllers, right, which have the logic behind it. We have the models, the schemas, and we also have the routes, which will basically tell my server, okay, if I need to reach, for example, where am I? For example, I need to reach a place that requires handling data with the user. I will put the auth.js. It has all of these things, for sign up. It has auth_control.signup. It has login, auth_control.login. All of these things that is there, that will basically tell my server if I need to go to a feature, if I need a feature to be done, how will I go there? So that is what the route is doing. So then we have the app.js, all of these things are there, and the Zoda.js, okay. So that's the back end. And for the front end, we talked about React Redux toolkit, right? So where is that? I have my Redux over here. I have all of these actions, okay, cart actions, like if any sort of requests are done. So how am I going to be handling with that? Order actions, slices, my menu slices, my order slices, user slices, all of this comes into the part of slices. And then finally we have the store.js, which has everything, the reducers. So restaurants will be given the name as a placeholder for a restaurant reducer, and menu reducer, and all of these reducers that are there, sorry, these are all imported from slices. So every single information about the slices, every single update that it has in the reducer, so all of that is being imported into the store. So store basically has every single application data, right? So that is what we talked about. Now I will also be showing you to my local host. So this is how my website is going to be look like. I am logged in already as Olive, and I have 9 restaurants. Okay, so all of these are there. So this is the AI part. Okay, so there are like 70 total reviews, and I don't need to manually go and check each and every single review whether or not it is good or not. So I can have the AI button telling me the review summary is positive. So most dishes are perfectly cooked, and what's the price and all of this. So this is also this AI feature that we added. Here also is the review summary. So we have positive, fresh and flavor dishes and all. Okay, so this is basically how the website is working. I can also search my restaurants. For example, I can search KFC and KFC should show up. Yes, so it did show up. So this is how basically basically the entire website is looking like. Let me just place an order in, for example, Haldiram's. I would have some pani puri. I would have some dahi papri chaat. I would have 2 dahi papri chaat, right? I would like to go to my cart. So it has dahi papri chaat, it has pani puri. Let's check out. So I have sent all of the information and everything. So I would like to pay without the link. Okay. So since I have given all of the information, I would like to forward with the pay. No thanks. Processing, and it is going to show me a success, hopefully. Yes, your order has been placed successfully. So yeah, basically we have been placed our order. So that is how this entire thing is working. The project demo, and ordered it, the full project. So that was for my project demo. And let's see, let's be continuing with the presentation, the project demo that we have just seen right now. I hope you guys could have a clear idea and a grasp of what the website looked like and how it was actually functioning, even behind the scene. At the end, I would like to conclude it with I just successfully built and deployed a fully working website application that deals with real-time user data. Okay, I was logging in, I was updating my carts and all the client server interactions, requests, and also server pipelines. It indulges not only with cutting modern technologies like React. Okay, so since React is a very talked about technology, it's still there. The market still demands it. It is our project doesn't always the deal with React. It also has it incorporates with AI features that initiate smoother and faster workflows. It lands a strong foundation with MERN stack web development. So that is how I would like to conclude it, and thank you. See you in another internship project or anything like that. Bye bye.